From KVUE News in Austin, you're watching Texas This Week with Ashley Goodo.
Good Sunday morning. We are about 1 week away from the deadline to file to run for office in Texas, and campaign season is in full swing. Let's get to the 3 things you need to know in Texas politics. Former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke is continuing to travel the state, talking with voters about why he should be the next governor of Texas. On Saturday, he held a rally in Austin. Governor Greg Abbott is also making his pitch to voters and was in Edinburgh this week. Meanwhile, speculation about a possible gubernatorial candidate came to an end. Actor Matthew McConaughey tweeted this video Sunday evening saying he's not going to run. Construction on a portion of Governor Greg Abbott's border wall could start soon. This week, Land Commissioner George P. Bush signed an agreement to build temporary border fencing on these 2 miles of state-owned land in Starr County. His office tells KVUE News DPS will cover the costs and will start construction soon. We've reached out to DPS to find out how much it's expected to cost. State leaders met this week to put policies in place to try to prevent another power failure in wake of the deadly February winter storm. During the storm, electricity to dozens of natural gas companies was turned off, preventing them from being able to produce, largely because those companies didn't fill out paperwork designating them as critical infrastructure. The Texas Railroad Commission approved a rule Tuesday requiring critical gas suppliers to fill out the forms. But there is an exemption allowing some companies to not winterize their equipment. Those companies will have to submit an application for exemption and pay the application fee of $150. For now, commissioners say an application doesn't automatically mean approval, and some companies will be denied exemptions. While some steps have been taken to keep the power on this winter, there are energy experts who say it's not enough. A report from the Electric Reliability Council of Texas stated if there is severe weather, we could see blackouts. The Texas Tribune's energy and economy reporter Mitchell Furman talked to other experts who say people should be worried. He joined me to share what he's learned. This week, you all at the Texas Tribune put out a pretty alarming report. You have experts saying that people should be worried about what's going to happen this winter. Talk to us about, for you, the overall big themes from this report and what you found.
Yeah, we wanted to look at if another extreme freeze were to hit Texas this winter, much like last year, would Texas be in a better position to handle it? And we found that the answer is probably not. The state has responded. They passed legislation in the spring after hours and hours of hearings and meetings. They did pass legislation. They shaked up the leadership of the grid operator and of other regulating agencies, but that process takes time. And for especially natural gas producers, they are not weatherizing to the degree that lawmakers were hoping. State senators in September were furious at the Texas Railroad Commission, which regulates the state's massive oil and gas industry, for not requiring gas producers to have their equipment properly prepared for extreme winter weather. The gas industry has a heavy hand in how things operate in Texas. They fund a lot of the political campaigns of lawmakers, governors, and regulators at the Texas Railroad Commission. So, and weatherizing equipment is an expensive process, especially retrofitting equipment, right? That gas producers' equipment is already online. So if, in order to retrofit the equipment, it's even costlier, experts have told us. So the part of the issue here is that the Texas Railroad Commission and ERCOT, the grid operator, have not produced the numbers of how many gas producers have weatherized. There is a rulemaking process that has been slow, and that was part of the frustration that state senators expressed in September. And so for this upcoming winter, it is likely that the gas piece of the electricity supply chain in Texas will mostly not be weatherized. The Texas Railroad Commission they said that when I asked for data on how many gas producers are weatherized, they told me to ask ERCOT, and ERCOT declined to comment.
Regulation seems like it's a dirty word in Texas politics, but at the end of the day, it would seem as though we need someone to be in charge and telling us what's going on, who's weatherized, who's not. And you're finding that with all that finger pointing, that's not necessarily happening.
Yeah, and the finger pointing started with the governor at the very beginning in February. He immediately pointed the finger at ERCOT and at renewable energy sources. Those were two elements of the supply chain that received wrath from the governor, and the lieutenant governor for that matter. I mean, the officials really wanted to be absent of blame here, even though they're the ones who write the laws. In Texas, unlike any other state in the country, it operates its own power grid. So the state lawmakers are the ones who write the laws that guide the power grid here. Everywhere else in the country, it is run by lawmakers in D.C. National lawmakers are the ones responsible. But in Texas, it is very unique because the state did not want to be regulated by the federal government. They took it upon themselves. Yeah. But at times like this, when we're trying to find out who is responsible here and what needs to be done, it doesn't seem like anyone is interested in raising their hand.
Just last week, Governor Greg Abbott said that everything is going to be fine. We are prepared. The head of the Texas Oil and Gas Association says everything is going to be fine. The natural gas is going to be fine. Should Texans feel some reassurance that our state leaders are saying these things?
If they want to, the governor's remarks don't exactly align with what ERCOT is saying in their analysis. Also maybe in the last 2 weeks, I believe it was, ERCOT put out a report that said if the same type of similar type of storm struck Texas, the grid is still vulnerable.
Right. And then obviously we have the federal officials who are sounding alarms about what Texas is dealing with.
Yeah, the federal regulators have definitely been harsh about Texas's response and management of the grid. But federal regulators have minimal say in how the Texas grid operates because of how the state set up the grid to be deregulated from the federal government. And instead, now it's on the state lawmakers and on the governor to make sure that the grid can handle extreme weather.
And now the last word. As we enter the 2022 election cycle, there is a phrase you will hear over and over again. In fact, you've already heard it countless times here in Texas. This morning, I want you to know that this is intentional. It is by design. Christopher F. Rufo is credited with being the architect of this strategy, if you will. After the Virginia gubernatorial race, Rufo tweeted this: Glenn Youngkin made critical race theory the closing argument to his campaign and dominated in Blue Virginia. We're building the most sophisticated political movement in America, and we have just begun. Critical race theory, sophisticated political movement. Now, last month, one of the authors of the critical race theory laws in Texas attended a school board meeting in Conroe discussing guidance for teachers on the new laws. Representative Steve Toth said teachers should tell students that the, quote, evils of our past don't live up to the authentic founding principles of the United States. Of course, keep in mind some of the men writing those authentic principles had slaves and didn't see a problem with that. And then there's the fact that the Constitution even refers to slaves as 3/5 of a person. So these men weren't living up to these principles, which some might argue is part of the basis of this philosophy. But hey, that's another topic for another day. Let's get back to what teachers should teach. Take a listen to what was said.
There are not two sides to the Holocaust. There are not two sides to slavery. There's not a contending side to some of the evils of our past. There aren't two sides to Jim Crow. There's not a contending side to that. Can we all agree that that was evil? We can, right? So we're not asking teachers to give an alternate perspective on the evils of slavery, Jim Crow, or Adolf Hitler, or the Nazis. It's part of the historical record. It's not debated. We have, in fact, asked teachers to make sure that when they discuss current events, that they do that from a diverse standpoint.
Reasonable people can probably agree that elementary, middle, and even high school students shouldn't be learning collegiate or graduate level course material, which is what critical race theory is. And most Texas teachers will tell you, in fact, they said it in this meeting, they don't teach CRT. Regardless, that's not what House Bill 3979 or Senate Bill 3 do. The term critical race theory is nowhere in the bills. What is the phrase diverse and contending perspectives. And here's the thing about Representative Toth's logic. The Holocaust, slavery, Jim Crow have all ended. Racism has not. It's still very real in current events, and so are the actions of racist people. Sure, you can look to events in the 90s and early 2000s, but you don't have to go that far back. 2015, Charleston, South Carolina. A man killed 9 people in a church because they were black. You also don't have to go that far away. 2019, El Paso, Texas. A man killed 23 people in a Walmart because they were Hispanic. And just in October, anti-Semitic banners hung in our city of Austin. Teachers ought to be able to teach the truth, plain and simple. There are no diverse and contending perspectives to hate. That's the last word. And this has been Texas This Week.